tag and all of that.
I think so. We'll figure it out. We'll edit that in post. It's all good, Jennifer. We'll get you in 1 second. It is Carne. Welcome back to the Working Week. I'm James VanOsdol. And before I bring Jennifer on officially, my guest, Jennifer Hall, I want to mention Carne and me up for the Chicago Reader's Best of Chicago 2020 poll. You can vote for me as Best Podcast Host in the City Life category, and Carne as the Best Music Podcast in the Music and Nightlife category. Voting ends in early February. I want to thank Joel and Santi and Katie, who all checked in to say they voted. Much appreciated, truly. Once I get through with tonight's interview, my big plan, I'll get it up on the podcast. It'll be in the RSS feed. My big plan is to Google a lot of stuff about Tenet, which I watched just before logging on. Not really sure what happened. I'm going to read a couple articles about it afterward. I will say the sound mix of Tenet was terrible. I was sitting in front of the TV, adjusting my volume every time someone was talking. Everyone talks in whispers, and then the action is really loud, so then you have to bring the volume down. Anyways, Tenet was, I thought it was a confusing mess, but that's what the internet's for. It's going to help me through it. That all aside, my guest tonight, she is Jennifer Hall. She is a Chicago singer-songwriter who just released, as I wrote in the show description, what I think is her finest recording to date, a single called SFA. It just came out 2 weeks ago. Good evening, Jennifer.
Hello. How's it going?
Let's start there. Let's start with SFA. First of all, I looked at the lyrics. I listened to the song over and over. I watched the video. What is SFA?
I can't tell you what it stands
Seriously?
for. I'm very sorry. It's related to something that I promised to myself I wouldn't reveal. But I'll tell you all about the song. It's just the initials are of some private significance.
Okay. Now this is a song about just
being helpful?
A little bit, maybe not. But this is a song about being a good human being, basically, right?
I suppose, yeah. It's really funny because the first thought, like I've found that the first thought I've had about, like the first thought that I've had when someone is asked to describe the song, or when I think of kind of what the song is about, the first thing that comes to mind is, being in a moment where you're really choosing to lean into an empathetic response towards somebody versus, maybe an inkling to be judgmental. But the other day I was just thinking that there is so much more about the song that I'd love to chat about if you would be curious.
Let's talk about it. The song has just shimmering keyboards. The bass line is nice and deliberate, and your vocals they're kind of ethereal. They kind of hover above it all.
Yeah.
I love the way the song is produced. It's produced beautifully, and the video is fantastic too. Where did you film it?
Yeah, well, I just want to mention really quickly, produced by Noam Wallenberg of Rax Tracks Recording. Just brilliant. I don't know where he comes up with this stuff. And then the video was directed by Alex Shane, a wonderful, amazing, unbelievably creative mind. He's actually a good friend of ours. He is from Chicago, but is now living in San Francisco. So Noam and I flew to San Francisco. This was just before the pandemic, for full disclosure. So it was all done very safely. But filmed in San Fran on his home turf. So
yeah, it's lovely.
Thank you.
Is it true that whenever you put out new music, you change your hair color?
Why do I do that?
Why do you do that?
I don't have any information. I was like, this is weird. I've just made mental notes of this and it keeps happening. Yeah, like right after we put out the self-titled EP, it was back in 2015. Then we went on a touring rampage. But right after that, I think it was I cut off all my hair and dyed it, and platinum blonde. And then after we put out In the Water, which was our single at the end of 2019, cut it all off, dyed it blonde and then blue. And then we went out and filmed in San Fran, put out SFA, and I just dyed it red. It's
stunning.
Very red. Thank you. Yes. It's all back, but
staying on SFA, was there something
Yeah.
else you wanted to say about that before because you said let's talk about it.
Yeah. If you think it is of significance, yeah. I'm such a nerd for that stuff. I love to talk about like the kind of emotional meanings behind songs.
Everything except for the title.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Which is obviously private, yeah, but for all the work that we ever put out, I'm always in charge of the lyrics, and it's something I really try to, or it's a way in which I really try to be as vulnerable as I can, as honest as I can. So not only is it about kind of attempting to really push yourself to be empathetic towards somebody, maybe in an instance where it's easier to judge, but as a step beyond that, to choose to be empathetic towards somebody, even though, or to like, to reject this desire to be judgmental because you know that you're seeing yourself or some part of yourself or your choices in them. Mm-hmm. Right. And to like, I think sometimes there's this inclination to judge somebody as a way to sort of like separate ourselves from someone else, to be like, that's not something I'd ever do. Or I would like to reject the fact that I see myself in this person or their choices, which I don't stand by. But yeah, and it was really just sort of a song that was like an observation, if you will, about someone who's anonymous, someone just having a tough time in kind of repeating old habits, kind of getting stuck in old ways, struggling to get past, experiences of the past and to really evolve. Someone kind of stuck emotionally and kind of like experiencing old wounds on replay, if you will. So yeah, and that's something I'm like, I felt that before.
Of course, we all have, for sure.
Yeah, like this is a time to be compassionate. This is not a time to judge. Yeah,
I love it. Well,
not to get too all into all this intense.
Well, that's why you're here.
Stuff.
We're talking about your music.
Okay, great.
You mentioned "In the Water," another stunning song.
Thank you.
It seems like you have a very strong focus on the visual aspects of your music, because your videos are they're very well done. They're very well thought out. They're just well done pieces of work. Do you think visually when you create?
Yes, Alex and I going back and forth. There are so many. Well, or I'll take a step back. Like when we're making the music, I don't know if there are necessarily visuals that help to that kind of contribute when a song is being constructed. But certainly after a song is kind of reasonably thought out and we know what it's going to sound like production wise, whatever, I definitely start thinking visually a great deal. Alex and I were always sending music video ideas back and forth and all. Yes. Long story long. Yes.
You have legit choreography in the water. I mean, that's.
Yeah, that was choreographed by a gentleman named Orb Box, a wonderful dancer in Chicago. And that film, or that one was actually directed by Alec Bass and Max Moore. So that was a different team on that one. But they did a great job. But yeah, ever since I was young, I remember when I was a kid being in school, like I really struggled with like auditory processing, like directions when I was a kid in class. Oh my God. They're like, you're not listening. Are you paying attention? Are you in there? And I'm like off in my own little land, like never sitting down. But it was very, very visual. Anything I could see, I would get it right away. Or if it had a melody to it, then I could remember it easily. But
see, now when I was in school, the thing the teachers always said was, smart kid just doesn't apply himself at all.
Isn't that always like when you think of like some amazing, creative, lovely, wonderful, bubbly people. I feel like there are always those stories.
Uh-huh. Yeah, could have been a doctor,
That's
didn't
funny.
apply himself. Yeah. But going back to the videos, I
Only
did
he
want to
could
mention one of your older videos, Make It Out Alive. I
Yeah.
love it because it has this very weird, like Pet Cemetery meets The Wicker Man meets Paint vibe going on. I mean,
Yeah.
it appealed to my love of horror, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a little like, yeah, like scary and fantastical.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And Please Leave, you've got like the clay mask peeling off, like the very literal,
Yeah.
like shedding your skin,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love. I was trying to think of when we started communicating. I want to say it was not long after I started doing Demo 312. It was probably like 2016. I was playing Beverly Road. Was it that
Oh,
long
no
ago?
way. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that is nuts. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I forgive my terrible memory over here. I thought it was for sure before, like in the water, like that we had maybe synced up sometime in there. Gosh.
No, I was looking at my
You
old
have
playlist. I probably played you
better
three or four.
memory than me.
I probably played you 3 or 4 times in 2016. I was playing Beverly Road, which is
Oh, that's so
crazy.
sweet.
But
Thanks. Ah.
that is, I mean, 2016 isn't even the beginning of your story. I mean, you've been out on your own for 10 years now.
Oh, Lord, it has been yeah, it's been a while. I actually, so Noam and I are kind of essentially the writing force behind this, and kind of in pandemic times, we're essentially the band, at least right now. Because side note, we're also bubbled together. So we're able to continue and make stuff. But uh, I met Noam on Craigslist. I put up a Craigslist ad being like, serious guitarist needed, must be serious, something. But that was like, I think that was 11 years ago, because we played for a few years, you know, before anything else.
When did you start writing music?
Um, I want to say, like, there's a part of me that wants to be like, oh, 12, 13 years ago. I started to write very crappily at like, I don't know, 18, 19, yeah.
You're finding your voice, so to speak.
Yes, that's correct. And those will never find the light of day. Mm-hmm.
So over the past year, we've been getting songs piecemeal, which, I mean, that's the new normal. We were talking just before we went live about how the music business, the rules change every day, every year. It's piecemeal a la carte music is certainly a way to go. So we got In the Water a year and a half ago, SFA 2 weeks ago. What does this mean for, is this kind of the direction you're going to take? Just kind of put stuff out there, or is the goal to kind of collect what you're doing to something more full bodied?
Yeah. To be honest, I like when we had In the Water going, we had tons of these other ideas floating around, and nothing really ever sort of made it to the finish line, so to speak. Like, we scrap a lot of stuff. I guess I'd never really felt that was, going to be what we were going to do. They were just going to be putting out kind of one song at a time. I think at some point I just like felt this sense of, I suppose, like impatience, I guess, or just like a creative urgency to get certain songs like off of our plate, like get them out there, because we were, not recording at a pace that would allow us to put out a record within a year, but maybe like 3 years, which, so I'd love to start putting out stuff at a quicker rate. Yeah, this past year was such a major bummer. And I wish we could have I wish that pain to art channel was like super clear and not clogged. But like for me, it was just so clogged. And this
And
past year,
it was for so many, for sure.
yeah.
One thing I was expecting to happen, and it didn't really happen, but you certainly fit the bill of what I imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting a video renaissance over the past year. Since artists couldn't play out, I kept waiting for just a flood or a torrent of music videos. didn't really happen. I mean,
Mhm.
there were some good examples, but I still feel like there is a need or an opportunity for music videos, not lyric videos, but actual like thoughtful expressions to have a
Yeah,
resurgence.
that would be amazing. I mean, I guess part of my thought on that would potentially be, maybe the stall in, logistics or like finances. But then again, I'm thinking, maybe that's an excuse because some of the most gripping, most amazing videos are extremely simple and done on an iPhone. So like,
That's the
you
amazing
know,
thing. Yeah, the fact that
yeah,
everyone has the technology in their pockets at this point.
exactly. Yeah, like really, I think with, you know, proper accessories and whatever, yeah, you could make anything with your iPhone. I mean, yeah.
I mean, same with my industry. Anyone can do a radio show with what they have in their pocket right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You,
No,
you
I'd love
too
to
can
learn more
do
about
a
that.
podcast. It's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
So as we talk about the clogged year that was 2020 and managing through
Yeah.
stuff, you have established a Patreon for yourself. Those who aren't familiar, Patreon is a way to support artists on a monthly or regular basis. It's a nice symbiotic relationship artists have with their fans. Tell me about yours.
Yeah. Well, over the years, I'd heard and seen Patreon accounts made by so many artists that I loved and artists that I'd followed. And yeah, I don't know, one day recently, it was created pretty recently. I just thought like, what's stopping me, from just, you know, putting my head down, spending the day, really getting it organized, figuring out what we can offer, and really, really recommitting, myself and, me and Noam to really getting creative again. I think that was maybe where I was dragging my feet a little bit. Because that means you have to like, when people are signed up, then you got to start giving the goods,
Yeah,
delivering
it's
the
like
goods.
they're investing in your company.
Yeah,
Can't
exactly.
let the investors down.
Yeah, of course. And there was certainly never any intention to do anything but that. So it's been exciting. We have like these different levels established, and I'm still always trying to think of like cool, fun things to offer people that sign on. I don't know. I thought, is it weird to like do like a Zoom workout and then we can all like work out together and like pump
I've seen a
iron?
lot of stuff like that. I've seen. I have a musician friend who does yoga classes now.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a Patreon thing. I
Mm,
think she does Venmo for it, but
that's awesome.
we're all trying to find ways around this.
Yep. Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
when it comes to Patreon, yes, I mean, as a fan, you can get access to music and videos, but a lot of people just like to pony up the cash just to be supportive, get nothing in return, just to
Yeah.
jump in and say, yeah, you got my support. Good luck. Let's get through this. Keep creating.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking the other day too, like just about how a company like Patreon really offers this sort of restructuring essentially of like you know of the financial structure of making music and making art, because I think unfortunately, you know or I guess not unfortunately, but realistically, a, a good decent amount of art does take finances and
Mhm.
resources to make and to, you know um but it kind of puts the power, it kind of like redistributes the power a little bit when,
Sure.
I don't know, for decades and decades, right? Like the label had the power because they had the money, and you know maybe you were creating in a way that satisfied them, and they got to say what you would do and what the career looked like a bit more. And now this really gives you so much control, and it's almost like the people's label or something.
Oh, very much so. I remember. I mean, I've been around long enough where I remember seeing and hearing of bands whose goal it was, whose sole career objective was to get signed to a major label. That was it. If
Mm,
only we can do X, Y, and Z and get signed, we've made it.
mm,
It seems like a quixotic
Yeah.
mission or a goal to even want to even think about being on a label at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone's empowered to. It's hard. It's really hard, and there's no secret formula to get to that finish line. But the
Yeah.
benefits seem so much more real, tangible, and ongoing being
Yeah.
independent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like if not just for the sole reason of being able to have total creative
That's it.
control, I feel like that it's funny. I just like, I don't even know. I don't even know what it would look like or what it would feel to even have some group of people that had nothing to do with your work, or the stories you wanted to tell or the memories you wanted to share via your music or your art, to have them say what they needed you to say,
For
or to
sure.
have any opinion on what you were making. It just seems so crazy to me.
I
Hats
I
off
have
to the artists that have endured that.
I have friends who've been on major labels who put out an album years ago, dropped by the label,
Mm.
albums long out of print, and they have no access to their masters. I mean, I can't
Oh,
imagine having no control over the content I create. How frustrating.
that's terrible. I could not even imagine. I
So,
mean,
so
gosh, wow.
Patreon
Yeah.
makes sense. This makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
This, you're right. I think you said it in so many words. This is the new record label. This is the new,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
consumers are your boss. Great.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
It's pretty nice. And I think the cool thing too is that, like, as your art evolves, it's possible that maybe somebody that, was a member and was, finding themselves to be interested in, the creative direction you've been going, I think it's possible and certainly okay for maybe them to, for them to say, maybe as you change creative directions, like, okay, that's not really something I'm into anymore, and I'm not, gonna be signed up anymore, and that's okay. But I think then you'll always find other people that are like, hey, you know
Absolutely.
what, I wasn't so much relating to that other direction, but I really like this direction, now I'm gonna sign on. So I feel like there's less of this need to, like, I don't know, chase people's money, and more just like, like being, what's the word, like being at the mercy of,
Right.
what you think people want, or like what you think is going to sell, and just doing your thing. And the fact that it's so accessible, there's bound to be someone out there that's, I think, into what you're doing.
Exactly. You do you.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
do you.
All
Gosh,
right. All right.
someone should
So
be
for
copyright.
for people who want to hear, discover, learn,
Mhm.
should they start with your website?
Sure. I feel like I should have a better answer for you for that. I mean, I would say start at Spotify or Bandcamp. Bandcamp is very helpful to artists more than Spotify.
Bandcamp is
But
super helpful to artists, and I believe
yeah.
February the 5th, I don't know if I have the date right,
Mm.
whatever the first Friday is in February, that's another Bandcamp day where all the revenues go directly to the artists, which I love. I
That's
love that they do
amazing.
that.
That's
I
amazing.
that's
That's so
that's
cool.
yeah, because they take a percentage off, and this is a
Yep.
way, especially during these times, and this is why Bandcamp started it. Artists are
Yeah.
struggling. Just let's give all that money to the people making the music. Buy some
Yeah.
merch, buy some songs, buy some records.
Go
Love it.
Bandcamp. I'll
Go
tell you.
Bandcamp.
I'll
All
tell
right,
you what.
Jennifer Hall, thank you for doing this tonight.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I hope my long, winding answers were long and windy enough.
They were